Uh, Hi, everyone. For those who weren't greeted or didn't get to talk with me, my name is Melissa Ruther, and I work with the Wisconsin K-12 Energy Education Program, or KEEP. And before we get started, KEEP is so excited to be partnering with STEM Hero to help bring this awesome training to you all for MeterHero, that AP Environmental Science Enhancement Program. KEEP is funded by your local utilities, so that's pretty awesome. That's what helps us get you all here today and hooked up with MeterHero, STEM Hero. And yes, so without further ado, I'll hand you over to Nate.
Great. I'm going to, in chat, I put in a copy of the Google Slides so that you can access those as well now in the future. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. Okay, are you seeing a picture of myself there? Great. So the big thing I think here, one of my main messages is that my background is in education as well. So I really appreciate your time. I feel like it's always funny how I'm way more nervous talking to other teachers than I am down in a basement in Milwaukee reading a water meter with a handful of 7th graders, so bear with me, but we'll get through it. I'd actually love to just, if we wouldn't mind just going around the circle here real quick and just saying, kind of where you're from. That'd be wonderful to me, especially because we have a rather small group. Amy, where are you from?
I am in Marshfield, Wisconsin.
In Marshfield, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think, okay. And Scott?
I'm in Whitefish Bay at the high school, Whitefish Bay High School.
In Whitefish Bay, okay, great. And Jeff? I'm
at Brookfield Central, just outside Milwaukee. Yeah. And Amy, I did the training with you a few summers ago at UW, and I know you from the reading too. So
Jeff, I thought you looked familiar. It's good to see you. How's it going? Good.
Good.
I know Annie. I know you're in Stevens Point and can't talk. Sam, where are you?
I'm up by the Twin Cities.
Okay, fantastic. Stephanie, welcome. We're just going around saying kind of where we're joining from.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Johnston. I'm from WRTP Big Step. We work with students in the city of Madison and the Dane County area.
Great.
I don't know if you need more information than that.
That's great, Stephanie. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Perfect. And then I also see Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Balt. I teach at Nicolay High School, both APES and AP Bio.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, really appreciate your time. My goals for this short session, number one is to communicate to you that this isn't the end. So as a former teacher myself, I know that questions, you don't just get a training and then all your questions are forever answered. And so we actually love it when teachers reach out to us whenever, right? And whether that be by email or phone or, text message or whatever works best for you. That's an ongoing thing. There's not like a cost or something to reaching out when you have questions going forward. So we encourage that. And I would say one theme that I'm going to try to emphasize tonight is that everything that we've created has been because a teacher, oftentimes in Wisconsin, because this is where we started, requested something from us. And so we built something or we changed something or we added to it because the teacher asked for it. So this is a teacher-led effort. And so I really encourage you to continue to offer insights or requests as we go forward. My other goal is that I'd love to make sure that you have a sense of the application itself. And so that you all are professionals and are probably really good at playing with things and figuring things out on your own. But I want to make sure at a minimum that you have access and that you generally know the strategy of how we've laid things out, why we have, and then let you take it from there. And then lastly, what I want to touch on is just some of the best practices. We've done this now for four or 5 years. And so we've worked with hundreds of teachers around the country. And so I want to communicate to you some of the things we've learned as teachers have implemented this. Sound good? Okay. So again, here's my agenda here. I am going to give just a little bit of background on how this all started. It's a Wisconsin story, so I think you'll enjoy that. And kind of why this matters. Again, I'm talking to mostly environmental science teachers, so I'll be really brief there, but I think it's important to kind of remember why this is important. So first of all, this started when I was a graduate student at Marquette. I taught in the Portland, Oregon area. I'm from the state of Oregon, was at Marquette University, and with a professor there, started a little thing where we used utility data from Milwaukee Public Works as a way to get adults to pay attention to their water use. It got some publicity when Great Lakes Distillery, I don't know if anybody's been to Great Lakes Distillery down there in Walker's Point, they actually came in as a funder, and they funded Milwaukee residents who reduced their water use, and they provided them free vodka. And that got some big attention in the media, and got us into the Global Water Center in Milwaukee, Badger Meter funded facility all about water technology. The dirty secret, though, was that actually very few adults, even though it was free and even though you could get, free booze, very few adults actually logged in and actually looked at their water use or did anything with it. And we were going to shut it all down when we looked at our list of who had been using it, and we had 3 or 4 .edu emails. And what that led to was this, and we actually had a student intern at the time. This is a picture of him here. He's a Riverside High School student. And I went in and I talked to Rochelle Sandrin. She's now, or at least I'm not sure if she still is, but she was the science curriculum specialist in MPS. She said, my students are awesome at filling out worksheets, and I really hate it. And so we're looking for some real world data that we can use with the students. And essentially from that point, right, she was the one who kind of got us hooked on this idea of, gosh, what if we empowered students to be the ones who collect the utility data, and can we make it so that we can, get beyond a spreadsheet and make it easy enough for a teacher to manage and have a lot of students and, have the students be self-driven, and then provide the scaffolding that they would need to be successful with that. So all this comes from some of these early teachers in Milwaukee. Well, then it turns out, right, that actually research shows that if we want to get students motivated around STEM careers, we actually need to engage them with data outside the classroom. This comes from research at my hometown university, Oregon State in Oregon. And then actually that idea got picked up by some researchers at Marquette and at Loyola Chicago who wanted to study this effect of engaging kids with real world data and what that does for their sense of self-efficacy and what it does for their sense of continuing on with STEM pursuits. And so that study was done with about 15 schools in the Milwaukee region and showed some really promising results, and was published in an academic journal there. So we're really proud of that. Just to say too, right, again, we're talking to environmental scientists, but I'm out in Oregon. Our forests are just burning up every summer. And gosh, we need to do what we can to, try to get our emissions down. And, this is obviously a topic that really matters in terms of helping families and communities reduce their energy and water footprint. I went to a conference on, STEM education and climate change. And also, right, there's this big talk about how efficiency is a big piece of it. So we're going to bring on renewables. We're going to, have electric cars, but also there's big assumptions in our climate models about how efficiency is going to play a big role in getting us to where we need to go, right? So turning off the lights is a little thing, but it actually is sort of like we're counting on it. We're counting on homes and buildings becoming more efficient. And then also there's this equity piece, right? Which I think probably a lot of you are familiar with in terms of environmental justice. But man, the burden that a lot of families feel from their electricity, their utility bills is significant. And so it's important for us to, just be involved with again, empowering students and their families to reduce those bills if they can, and if there's opportunities to do so. And so this program has that motivation in mind as well. And then the last thing I'll say is that this is a workforce that is hiring. So utilities are, in general, They're local, right? You don't have to move to Silicon Valley to become a STEM person who works at a utility. The utilities are facing the baby boom just like everybody else. And so they're really expecting a lot of hiring to take place. And so this is a great thing, especially for, juniors and seniors who are maybe thinking about next steps, just be aware that this is a career path even available to them. Okay. And then now I'm going to jump into sort of what this curriculum is, and then we'll go into kind of logistics of it. So also, I love interruptions and questions. And so, or if you prefer to put something in the chat, Melissa's going to be monitoring that. We will have a lot of discussion time, but so when we originally piloted this, it was actually a teacher at Carmen in Milwaukee, and then later some teachers at Madison West who said, this might be a good fit in AP Environmental Science for after the exam, for those couple weeks after the exam, when maybe this idea of having students collect data, learn about an efficiency strategy that they implement, and then they gather data on how that went. Maybe that would be a good kind of 2 to 3 week project after the exam. Teachers also said that this might be a good enhancement for those units that are coming up in the school year that relate to water and energy as an enhancement to kind of bridge that school and home as students are learning those subjects. So just to say that we've heard 2 different places where this might be a good fit, depending on your teaching and what you currently have planned for those times. Okay. At this point in time, actually, before I do that, we're going to turn now to kind of the logistics side of how this works. I'll pause there. Does anybody have any comments thus far, or kind of questions that are burning in their mind at this point? Okay. Just like students, silence. I'll call names if I need to. Okay. So has everyone been able to log into this is what we call the dashboard, what we're looking at here. Has everybody been able to log into that? Okay. I want to draw your attention to a few things. So again, my hopes here is that I actually help get you going and help get you set up for success. A couple things I want you to notice. So first of all, down here at the bottom, there are this links to a few videos here. I'll probably start playing. There's a demo video down there, as well as kind of an introduction video for students. So that's meant, we often have teachers have said, gosh, it'd be kind of nice, a little bit of an overview of what am I looking at here. Those are down there. What you're looking at on my screen is what your school, what your class will look like after you have invited students. You have the teacher meters up here, and then you'll have your student meters below so that you can monitor, how students are doing. One big thing that you can actually do right now is in the upper left, there is a 3-dot menu. Go ahead and click on that. And Melissa, I might have you, if I could have you share your screen so that I can see, so that folks can see what it looks like for a teacher, because I have an admin account. Melissa, are you able? Oh, there it goes. Okay, great. And then can you go to that dashboard screen? Yeah.
Hey, while Melissa's getting her screen ready there, can I ask a question quick? I apologize. I had not logged in. So that came in a separate email, right?
Yes.
Do you know who that would have come from?
Yeah, Amy, it would have come from success@stemhero.com.
Okay, thanks. I
Great
think
question.
I see it.
Okay. There should just be a link to click on. Okay, so this is what your dashboard is going to look like, although the center image may be different. Again, what happened was when we started this program, we actually were contacted. We actually started selling this to teachers. I went down to Chicago and had a few teachers write me checks, and then we were so lucky because then actually utilities reached out to us and said, hey, we could actually pay for this for teachers. And as a teacher myself, was like, that's going to be great. The more that we don't have to have teachers fight internal budgets, that's great. So you will see an image there of your local utility there in Wisconsin, as well as some kind of specific buttons that we'll talk about in a little bit. So Melissa, and again, if you're doing this, it'd be great to follow along. In that upper left, there's those 3 dots. You go ahead and click on that. I'm going to show you how to set up your account and how to invite students. Which one are you logged in as? There should be a settings button.
I know. Hold on one second. I wonder if it's because I hopped into a different browser. Sorry, folks. Give me just a moment. Where are you at?
Does anyone else on the call see settings when they click on those 3 dots? Okay, great. Stephanie, I see you.
Okay, here we
All
go.
right, okay, cool. Yeah, so this is good.
Sorry.
Making me sweat, Melissa.
I was making me sweat. I'm like, we tried this earlier.
Yeah. Okay, so up in the 3-dot menu there, settings, go ahead and click settings. And then this is where you're going to add classes. So I don't know if anybody has multiple classes or not, but there's a little blue button up in the upper right. Go ahead and click that, Melissa. And then why don't you go ahead and name this class period 1.
Does this link into Schoology or Google Classroom or any of those platforms?
Good question, Sam. So we have it not directly, although we have I'm going to show you we have graphic organizers that are used as, scaffolding, and we have all that ready to go in Google Classroom. I'd love to talk to you more about that, Sam. I'm not sure if that answered your question, Sam, but I'd love to hear more about that.
Is that in our own Google?
Well, the school district I work for uses Schoology, and to try and get kids to log into another platform beyond it is tough. So that's where I'm working with. And then other item is I didn't get the email at my current email address. So okay. I'll give you that later on. Okay.
Sam, do you know would the students be able to log in with a Google like a Google account or a Microsoft Teams account?
They do have a Google one, but it's got the ending is all school stuff, but it is a Google account in nature.
Okay, all right, that should work, but we'll follow up offline and make it work for you. There's a couple different options of things we can do. Okay, let me just show this last bit of functionality, then we'll move on. Right here, this period 1, once we've created this class, to the right of it is a little copy icon. It's that one right there, Melissa. That link can be shared with your students. And whether you do that through Schoology, it will take them right to the login page. And then at that page, they'll be able to use a Google email if they have that. They can also use the Microsoft Teams. And then Sam too, there's actually a way for them to do it as well, just registering any email. If the Schoology, if that's a problem, let me know. If we need to do something with Schoology, let me know, and we might be able to get that going as well. In fact, our whole tech team is up in the Twin Cities, so we might be able to make that happen pretty quickly. I saw that there was a question. Was there a question, Melissa?
I think I heard someone cut in and out asking about how to gain access, like if they were already given like the Google Classroom component or whatnot. And that's why I was just saying, yeah, all they have to do is let you know. Nate and his team normally will send out an email saying we have these options, let us know if you need them, and they hook you up.
Yep. Yeah, in fact, you'll see the emails will come from a woman named Kim. Kim is a high school science teacher in Arizona who came across our program we've worked with, and then now is as a part-time gig is helping us onboard other teachers. So so that's kind of how we've grown. All right, so that's how we set things up. Now I'm going to take back the screen from you. Any questions related sort of how to set up or how to get students in? Okay, great. You're seeing my screen now, correct? Okay. So the way that we've set up this program is that there's essentially kind of 3 steps. We want students to understand and think about the context of examining their energy and water data. We want to teach them how to do that. That's kind of step 1, get them able to be collectors of this information and understand sort of the context for that. The second step is that we want them to learn about best practices when it comes to how you might reduce your home or your school's water or energy footprint. We want them to ultimately to make a decision about one of those best practices that they might implement. Could be something different. And then we want this to be an opportunity to engage in real scientific inquiry. So they're going to implement that strategy while trying to keep other things constant, right? So we're treating this like an experiment. And the final step is that they're going to analyze the data that they found and communicate out their findings to their peers. So kind of 3 steps: collect data, make a decision about what you're going to implement, and then report out on how that experiment went and what you found with the data. So this project plan, the student experience, is that what we've tried to do is we've tried to guide them along the key steps that they're going to take in order to complete this project. For example, the first thing we need to do is we need to actually have them go look at their meters, go find them, and let us know what the units are. Sometimes the units are cubic feet, sometimes they're gallons, and so we need to go show them how to do that. In all of these steps, what we've done is we've built out little help pages. And these help pages teach the student kind of what they're going to be doing. And then they're all oriented around these graphic organizers. And Sam, these are the graphic organizers that I was talking about that we have sort of ready to go import into the LMS that you might be using. These are made on Google Docs so that they can be copied and edited by the students. But these are the things that give them the information about like where is my meter, how do I read it, that sort of thing. And we have lots of supports here that, to be honest, your juniors or seniors may not need. We had a teacher one time actually at Cass Elementary in downtown Milwaukee who said, hey, I would love it if the first thing I do with my students is just have them draw the meter. So they don't get intimidated about how to read it, but they just draw what they found. So there's like resources like that. If you feel like you have a student who's feeling a little overwhelmed, those things exist for you. The second step we take is that we actually use some online calculators to have students predict their energy or their water use. We think that this is a really important step for a couple of reasons. One is it kind of piques the students' interest about like what might their usage be. It teaches them what generally uses water or generally uses energy in a home. And that could be interesting, right? Starting to turn the wheels about like what efficiency opportunities might be there. But the other piece is that we will then, after this step, we will start to collect real data. And having this prediction can help a student get a better sense of if they are collecting data correctly. Because if they collect data that is way, way different than their expected use, right, that can tip them off that, hey, maybe I didn't take the reading quite right. Something doesn't make sense. Last thing I'll say about this is that the expected use is almost always very different, not very different, but it's almost always different from the actual use. Sort of, you might anticipate that. And that can be interesting too, right? Like, what is it about the information that I think is going on in my house that is different from what's actually going on? So students, their steps here, they're going to be going through these steps. These can be very self-driven by them. Your students won't have trouble doing a lot of this on their own. Or again, you as a teacher can discuss these steps as they go through. Students are going to choose their source of data. For almost all students, this is going to be their utility meter itself that they're going to draw data from. In some utilities that we work with, they actually have like an online portal. Maybe the students can log into their utility account and see data, historically, right? And so students can do that here. We've also had, there's also, I don't know how much in Wisconsin, but we do this in other states. And in some places like in California, there's actually, new technology, right? It's a smart irrigation controller, or it's something like that that's actually providing data to the students. One thing I will say here is that this period of the unit often brings up this question of like, hey, what about students who are in are not in a traditional single family house? How do they participate? That's a really, really good question, right? And some of our students are navigating housing insecurity. How are they going to participate? And so here, what we have is we have a number of options of what students can do. So first of all, we remember that we do this with all three types of meters. So water, natural gas, and electricity. In some situations, like I know in Wisconsin, right, where our water meters are generally inside in the basement, students who live in like an apartment building or in a duplex may not have access to that water meter. It might be kind of in a locked storage area. This is why we actually started doing electricity and natural gas meters, is because those meters are generally sub-metered. So in other words, there's one for each apartment building, and they're generally outside or in like an accessible area. So if a student doesn't have access to a water meter, they probably can still monitor a gas or electricity meter. Also, these meters are generally available at a school. So if a student, is in a housing insecurity situation, they could monitor the school building. If you remember that newspaper photo from the Journal Sentinel, that student actually monitored their place of work. They monitored the Ginger Tapas Bar on First Street in Walker's Point. That's where they decided to get their data. And then lastly, I would say, we often have teachers who do this as well. They bring in photos of their meter perhaps and have students look at that data. Kind of like your students are probably blown away if they ever see you at the grocery store and realize that you're a real person. Students also love to comment on, the amount of water that their teacher uses, or, that the energy that their teacher used yesterday. So that's another way that, again, we can engage students with the data. Lastly, is that we have built, actually two things, actually. We have a real home that has live energy and live water data. So you can log into that. Students can look at a real home and look at that home's energy use, this morning and yesterday, and kind of use that data as something that they look at. And then we also have even virtual meter faces. So these are like drawings of the meter face, and they behave as if it was a kind of a typical single family home. So lots of opportunities for students to gather data. Okay. Any questions?
Nate, I got a question, and I asked this as a person. I have a well.
Yeah.
I don't think I have a meter. Do I?
Probably
and
not.
What about kids that are on a well?
Yeah.
I don't have. I'm in a suburban area. Don't expect a lot of it, but some might.
Yeah. So not a problem. Yes. So your well probably does not. I'll say that one aspect that we've had some teachers report that they use that as a little bit of a discussion. Sort of like this is kind of interesting, right? That we aren't monitoring that. And again, that's a reality. There's some places where they do monitor the well water because there's more scarcity. So Wisconsin is, generally, I guess, blessed with, adequate groundwater, although that's not always the case everywhere in the state. In that situation, Jeff, or other students who are on a well, they won't have the ability to gather water data on their home. So that's where they would monitor electricity, natural gas. They would look at the school. We've had some teachers too who form, maybe they have everybody go try to find their meters, right? And at least like identify the fact like that I don't have one. And then they might form teams. So in other words, small groups where then maybe they focus on a person whose home is able to get high quality data or something like that. And then they kind of work together as a team to analyze that classmate's home that's another
Okay.
option as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, thanks.
Cool. So then walking through here, this next step is that students are going to collect their baseline data. So remember, they've predicted how much water or electricity or natural gas they've used. And now we're going to collect baseline data. We think that this should be ideally at least 3 readings. Generally, these are like daily readings. So, right, students, you kind of say, hey, it doesn't have to be at the exact time, but generally we find that students have a pattern of when they take their data. Funny enough, right, because it's software, like we can sort of analyze in an anonymous way, like when students generally take data, and we do see some that take it at, you know, like midnight consistently, right? So these are high school students, and if midnight is the time when they go down to the basement and check their meter, you know, that's fine. But we want to do at least 3 readings. Oftentimes this gets set up where it's like a week, right? Because our weekend usage is different than our weekday usage. So oftentimes a baseline will be collected over the course of a week. Again, this is something students are doing at home. You know, it's like we've done measurements. This takes students, you know, 3.5 minutes kind of a thing, you know. The data gets entered in here. We have some instructions that teach students how to read their meter. We find that it's generally not a big deal. However, if a student is ever feeling frustrated or they're just not sure, send us an email with the meter photo, and we can send you back the correct reading, you know, in a matter of minutes. We've also had teachers, obviously, who, like the students who do get it, they work together with the student who's maybe having a little bit of trouble, and they can generally figure it out really quickly. One nice thing about utility meters is that they're oftentimes kind of the same in a community. So once you get one that's read correctly, like the other ones look the same, and it's quite easy. Last thing I'll say about that is that if you, as a teacher, even if you want to start this kind of before your students do, if you live in the community where, you know, your students generally do, if you send me or Melissa a photo of the meters, we can get you kind of an example reading. And in fact, we could probably even do that anyways, since we know the schools where you're at. So with that, I just wanted to show you, I've actually done this training before, and teachers go, oh, I wish we would have read meters together. So we're actually going to pause. I actually want to show you the meters. Okay. Okay, so everyone can see my screen with the electricity meter. Electricity meters are quite easy. This is actually from my apartment on the east side in Milwaukee when I was there. And 3 numbers, you can't see it, but generally the screen flashes, and there's kind of this like reset screen. It's called the test screen, where they show everything is working. And then it'll flash to a screen that's like your car odometer, right? So it's generally about 5 numbers. There's a little kilowatt hours unit symbol there. And so this reading would be 36540 kilowatt hours. The only challenge you might have from students is they go, it's flashing different things. And what they want to look for is they want to look for the number that's like an odometer. It's like a big number. You know, it's actually going to be the biggest number that they see. They might see one that's like 14. Well, 14 means that's how much was used like yesterday, or that's how much was used during a peak time, something like that. But they just want to look for this big number. Any questions on looking at an electricity meter? All right. This is, what type of meter is this?
Natural gas.
Natural gas, I love it, okay. Good, this is a natural gas meter, right? Natural gas meters are tricky for like a minute, and then you're like, I get it. What's happening here is there's gears at the front, which are turning in different directions. So the arrows go in different directions. And so what you have to do here is you round down, or you always round down. So this reading, I'll actually start here on the left. This is going down to the 6, so it's 6, 2. This one, you might say, gosh, this one is almost to the 4, right? I want to mark it as a 4. But this is sort of like a clock, like where the minute and the hour hand. And if you look over here, this one is not quite all the way around, right? It's going this way around to the 9 and and then it's going to turn around this way. So we actually know that this one is not yet to the 4. So we have to round down to the 3, and then we round down to the 8. These little ones down here are actually just for testing, and so we don't pay attention to that. Okay. Again, this is all written in instructions, and we have like little videos and things, but that's the natural gas meter. One thing I will say, and part of the reason why Rochelle and some other teachers have asked us to keep going with this program, is that they actually like the fact that this is an opportunity for students to make mistakes in a safe way. So your students, some of them, I guarantee it, will incorrectly read this meter the first time. And what they should do is they should take a photo of it so that they kind of preserve the record of that time. And then they're going to take a couple of readings, and their usage is going to be astronomical. It's going to be ridiculous. You know, it's like the average home uses 200 gallons of water, and their home will use 20,000, right? And this is one of those moments where you say, does that make sense? Or it'll be negative 10,000. So you used negative 10,000 gallons of water. So you put water into the pipe. How does that, how does that even work? So it's an opportunity for the student to go, okay, something's not right. Often, almost always, it's the decimal place, right? The decimal place is in the wrong spot, and they can change that. And then, okay, now my usage is back down to a reasonable level. And generally they get it right. Generally that's accurate. It's just sort of that magnitude decimal place that they're missing. But again, what we want to do is we want to empower students to actually act like real scientists and engineers and sort of practice this skill rather than just, telling them what the answer is. Okay. This is an electricity meter, but it's what they call an analog style. It's the old style. It's the same as the natural gas with the, these are spinning around. So again, you would round down. Does anybody want to try to take a shot at reading this for the group? Hearing nobody. Okay. So this would be 4, 8, 5. This one, I see actually this has already gotten to the 0. So I see that this actually is indeed pointing at the 4, 0, right? Okay. And again, if a student is kind of going, I just don't know, I'm scared, I'm going to get the wrong reading or whatever. Again, I would love to have them work with a fellow peer first, just to help each other out. But then you could send this photo in to us and we'll get you the correct reading right away. So we don't want a student to get stuck on this step. Okay. And then lastly, this is a water meter. One kind of thing of note, since I'm talking to a bunch of Wisconsinites, Badger meter, right? Badger as in the Wisconsin Badgers. Badger meter was started like 150 years ago in Milwaukee, and their headquarters is up in Germantown. They're in Brown Deer. They're the North America's largest water meter maker. So just kind of, little Wisconsin manufacturing pride there. So this meter, how you read it, and again, we have instructions, but this one, you look at the odometer here. So it'd be 093755. And this is just like a clock hand. So it's 3755.1. Then you count the tick marks, 0.13. That's that meter reading. These meters in Wisconsin are going to be down in the basement, and they're going to be next to the wall closest to the street, right? Because that's where the pipe comes into the house. That's reading water meters or reading meters. Any questions, or do you think your students could learn how to do that? Okay. Last thing, and again, all this is like in the curriculum, so you don't have to remember everything, but just one thing that's really neat about the water meters is that they have this little device here that spins as it uses water. And so one thing that students often like to do is they often like to test their house for leaks. Water leaks, it turns out, are like 14% of any home's water use. And so if a student thinks that all their water is shut off and yet this is still spinning, then they know they've got a leak. So they can use this little tool on the meter itself to run that kind of a test. Okay. Students then, as a part of this, they will learn about some efficiency strategies. Again, these are kind of like best practices. We started this program in part because we got frustrated by some documents that we were given as teachers that said sort of 50 tips on how to save water, or 101 ways to save energy. And it can be kind of disempowering, when you have so many different options. So we do want to give students ideas of best practices that tend to be effective, but we're always going to give them the opportunity to do something else as well, because we want them to match this to their actual home, their needs. So students will choose their efficiency strategy. Again, if you were to click here, there's some graphic organizers that help them to decide on that. There's even opportunities for them to sort of discuss make an argument for like why one efficiency strategy might be an especially good one to implement based on like savings over lifetime, right? There's small changes that might save a lot over the long term, or maybe a specific strategy that might be a good fit for their type of housing situation or their family. Students are going to articulate when they are going to do their experiment, and they'll kind of enter that data into here. They then measure the effect. So as an example, this student here, right, they predicted their consumption in yellow. They took their baseline readings here in black. They indicated when their experiment was going to start. So then their experimental usage here in white started, right? And we get 3 different lines that help them compare their predicted to their baseline to what their actual use was as they were running their experiment. And then lastly, what students can do is that, so we worked with a teacher at Marshall there in Milwaukee who came up with a scientific paper outline that's made for, he thought that would be a really good fit for APES students who maybe could use some practice writing a scientific paper. And so we have an outline that they can utilize to practice that, sort of talking about their experiment, talking about their data. We also have had teachers, we have a link right here to Flipgrid is maybe a tool that you've heard of, where students have just created little videos, right? So where they can take a screenshot of their data and explain what they did. We've also had folks do poster presentations. So that's the unit, right? That's the enhancement. Again, mostly at home, although, you can use lots of opportunities for discussion and classroom activities involved. Any questions on sort of how that works? All right. Last things I want to show you here. And again, as teachers, I know that you're really good at exploring things. So I just kind of want to point out things that are here. I'm now on my dashboard, and there's this 3-dot menu. You won't have something that says admin, but you will have something that says verify. This is full of example meters, and they're like correct readings, as well as instructions for students on how to take a reading. So that is all there. Again, we want to like empower students to, this has been done around the country by hundreds and hundreds of students. So they can, they can do it, but we have some examples there. I do want to show you under teacher resources is where we have a couple different of our curriculum versions. We do this with some schools in Texas. So of course, I don't know if any of you have connection to Texas wants its own curriculum and has a real passion for everything being uniquely Texas. So we have a version for the Texas folks. There's a version kind of more geared towards middle school students that's aligned with the next generation science standards. And then we have this AP environmental science version. And so here is where we have for you, hopefully everything that you need in terms of a scope and sequence. If you want to use it as a 5 and 6 enhancement, in terms of like what day we recommend that you do things. These lessons don't have to take very long, but we do like that there's maybe a day in between, just so that students have a chance to collect data, right? We also have it scheduled out. So May 3rd is the APES exam this year. And so we actually have a scope and sequence. We would recommend that you start it on the 9th, so this is down to the day of when we would recommend you do, these different aspects. Also here for you are, kind of frequently asked questions, more information about how students participate if they're on a well, Jeff, like you were talking about, or in an apartment building, step-by-step things there. And then the thing I really want to highlight, and again, teachers helped us come up with this, was here's that first step. And we've kind of broken it down by even sub-steps, right? We're going to start tracking data. We're going to do that estimated versus actual. So students don't see this stuff, but these are the things that as a teacher, right, you can come in and you can see the objective. You can see a way to extend it. We know that there's students who get really involved in this. We had students on the south side of Milwaukee who the lesson was over, the unit was over, and we found out that they had been gathering data 120 days in a row straight. I mean, some students just get really into tracking this, and we know that they get parents involved. So here as well, we have a template family letter. We strongly encourage you to let families know. They will notice, right, their children going down to the basement and hanging out by the electrical meter. And so it's important to kind of let them know their role that they can play. As well as, again, you will find links here to these graphic organizers, which are just meant to try to make it really easy for students to know what they're supposed to be doing and kind of what the steps are as they go through this process. I will say that the graphic organizers are meant to be the guiding thing. My hope is that you as a teacher can look at these graphic organizers and get a really quick sense of what they're trying to accomplish. However, if you would like a detailed lesson plan, that is there for you. If you would like classroom slides, that you can take and copy and utilize how you see fit, that's there for you. So in each of these steps, we have additional support resources that are there if you want to use them. However, as a teacher myself, I feel like you all know your students best. So this is take what you want, run with it how you want to. All that we really want to do here is just try to get students collecting real data, engaged in real scientific inquiry. But beyond that, there's plenty of room here for, tailoring it to your classroom. Okay. With that, I see that we have about 10 minutes left. Any questions or concerns or things that you like? Anything like that has come up?
Nate, how long is this open? Is this something we can do year after year, or do we have to renew or anything?
Hey, Jeff. No, yeah, you can do it year after year. We've had that be the case, and yes, you would. I get what you're saying. I think you're saying, like, even logistically, how would you just let us know? Let us know.
Okay, yeah. Because realistically, I'm not going to do this till May, like most APE teachers, obviously. So I'll have to come back to it. And then, obviously, I'd like to do it year after year. So will it be available?
So yes, and actually, you can just add, your classes again.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. I did want to bring up that a key part of this is our partnership with the local utilities. We want this program we're really passionate about this actually leading to families, saving money on their bills, having a high quality educational experience with the real data, learning about programs and things that might be able to help them do more. And so Melissa, on your screen that you showed, there's a couple buttons there that will actually link your students directly to like local information, right? So if they're in Alliant or if they're in the We Energies territory, those utilities, have built special pages, special web pages where they talk about, efficiency strategies specific to Southeast Wisconsin. And so we because students are investigating this, we will link to that. Melissa also is available to the KEEP team can do, provide a guest speaker. We have a lot of teachers who want to, who like to kick off this unit, with maybe a guest speaker talking about the local situation. Melissa can help arrange that, and I can help with that as well. But again, we want to try to localize this as much as possible. One cool thing is that we've done this and we continue to do it with students across the country. You might have seen in one of the slides, we just did a big pilot in Sacramento. And so we like that this is a topic that students everywhere are studying, but there are local differences, right? And so we want to try to help you connect with that local utility partner. Maybe a potential for a field trip, someday if we all get back to normal, internships, that kind of a thing. So hopefully this is a gateway to also build a helpful partnership that I know is important to a lot of schools.
Yeah, Nate and his team have been amazing in being willing to adapt, like he had mentioned earlier. When you as educators need something, they're on it. And we even, I don't know if you folks can see my screen, but on my dashboard, I have down here at the bottom this program and utility portal. It literally opens right up to those resources that Nate was mentioning. And he even worked with KEEP to really connect y'all to your local utilities by creating this page. I know it doesn't look exciting, there's just pictures, but if you click on those pictures, it will link you to different resources for you and your students. So this is, again, as Nate was saying, just other ways to really bring it home and help students see how utilities do want to help them and their families as well. Tips, tricks, different lessons they can be doing at home, those types of fun things.
Yeah, and this is specifically just for that part where when we first started this, we didn't provide much guidance, and so some of the teachers have said, gosh, it'd be nice to sort of help students make that decision. And others, we don't want to spend forever for students deciding on something that they could do at home. We do want to help them learn about what are kind of best practices, and so that information there is to hopefully help students decide what might be a good option for their home. Fantastic. Maybe just kind of show of hands. I am curious about sort of those two implementation timeframes. Do folks feel like, thinking about what they generally do in the year, do you feel like this would possibly be a better fit in this, I guess I'm going to ask, spring versus, unit 5 and 6 sort of enhancement? How many folks feel like they're leaning towards, sooner rather than later? So they're leaning towards the sort of 5 or 6 time frame in terms of unit enhancement. Okay. And then how many more? I know, Jeff, you said this kind of more towards the spring post-exam. Okay. Yeah. Okay, great. No, there's that's totally up to you. And so, yeah, so we'll reach back out and support all the way. If any questions come up, I'd love to schedule a time. I'll buy you a coffee from your favorite local coffee place while we're talking, and make it worth your while. So just really appreciate you all and the chance to support your teaching. Thanks for what you're doing.